What's going on, everybody? Ab the Audicrat here, and today we're going to be doing another beat breakdown video. This is episode 4 of my most recent instrumental single titled Sewer Smoke. I made this one back in 2020, and funny enough, Timbaland, yes, Timbaland, the Timbaland, rhymed over this during a Twitch stream, and it was pretty crazy. The chat was going nuts, I was going nuts. Really cool moment in my life, and let's get to the breakdown. All right, we're going to start off just by playing the beat from the top. We're going to break it down like we've been breaking down. We're going to go drum, sample, bass. This one does not have a bass. There's a bass within the sample that I just kind of boosted. There's a clavinet and a voice sample that comes in here and there. Let's solo the drums. So that's pretty much the drum beat. A few drops and a fill at a few parts. We got a kick, snare. I love that snare. Has like a tambourine almost layered on top of that. Dope hi-hat loop, open hat, and then a cymbal that hits every so often. When the open hat comes in, I pull back on the cymbal. Like I said in the beginning, this beat was made in 2020, and back then I would get a little more, I don't know, experimental with what I would do with drum bus processing. I have the drums getting sent to a virtual mix rack, slight compression on this VCA, and then the FG stress. A little bit from both, nothing too much, but the send is cranking, so you're getting quite a bit of that signal, even though it's slightly being compressed. And then I also have it getting sent to the easy fuzz setting on the Scream 4. On the individual drum sounds itself, I have F6s on almost everything. I went back at some point and added those on. A while back, I never used it. Back then, I didn't have the F6, so this was a more recent addition. This is on the kick, just getting some problem frequencies out of the way. This is on the snare, roll off at 125, and some taming in the higher frequencies. For the hi-hat, I'm rolling off about 700 and below, and then taming a few more problem frequencies, about 1.5K and about 6K. Let's solo the sample. Very dope sample, another one from my boy PJ Katz over at Mordella Music Library. Be sure to check that out. As far as the plugins for the sample, didn't do a whole lot. I have it going through an R comp, just giving it some nice compression. I have a dip using the M-Class equalizer, which I used all the time before I really started getting third-party plugins. Fun fact, I did not start using third-party plugins really up until 2020, which is amazing to think that I went that long without using a single third-party plugin. I had some demos over the years, but I was using everything internal with Pro Tools, everything internal with Reason, which goes to show you definitely can. There are a lot of third-party plugins, though, that I integrate into all of my production and mixing while still using some of Reason's native plugins. And last but not least, I have it going into an F6. I have a wide boost at 3K, a wide Q. And then on the bottom, I'm taming the bass by using the dynamic controls of the F6. Just turn the threshold down a little bit, turn this range knob down. This essentially acts as the ratio for the compression controls, the dynamic controls. I will be doing an F6 dedicated video very soon, so stay tuned for that. And I'm also doing a little bit of a dip at about 600 here and taming the low end a little bit to make sure that kick can come through. On the mixer, I sent the sample to the Scream 4 as well, the Easy Fuzz, about 25%. And I'm also giving it a little bit of reverb with the Verb Suite Classics plugin from Slate Digital. Now, that's the bulk of the beat. I do have a few other things that I have popping in and out. One is a voice sample. Nice delay. I'll play that one more time. Now that's from a Cymatic sample pack, I believe. Cymatic's Euphoria Acapella Dry. So I have a rec sample loaded in here, and I just used that one part. And then I have a clavinet riff that I played over the beat. And that comes in occasionally as well. I'm not going to go too deep on how I mix those sounds on this. I mean, I have an imager on the sample, some distortion, some reverb, some delay. The voice sample is getting a ton of reverb from the sends, and then I just pulled the volume quite a bit down. For the clavinet, pretty similar, just cranking some reverb and then a little bit of distortion on an insert, I believe. Yeah, the clavinet, I have a Puig Child just to give it a little bit of compression, tame the transients. Then I have a Scream 4 distortion, a high pass filter at about 400, and at the end of that chain, I just pulled the gain back a little bit. Something I do really like about this beat is the sample about midway. I put on a low pass filter, and a lot of the times when you do that to try to get the bass by itself, you tend to take away some of the harmonics that the bass sound might be giving you. But with this sample, there wasn't a whole lot of that, so when I did put the low pass on, it just sounded real dope. You could still hear the bass nice and full, and it was really only covering the other instruments of the sample, so that's kind of rare. Normally when you do that, you got to maybe layer it so you're not losing a whole lot of what you're taking out from the harmonics and the upper frequencies of the bass, but this one sounded dope just from putting the high pass on it. Also gives some room for the clavinet to come through when earlier in the song it's a little bit buried. It's not too buried, but you can hear it a little bit better in this part. Not a whole lot going on with this mix bus. We're going to start with the VBC rack from Slate Digital. This plugin is excellent for saturation on the whole track. When I do use this, I don't overdo any individual compressor. I just do a little bit of gain reduction on each, gives it a nice smooth sound. Next up, we have the Mo TT from Slate Digital, the secret weapon of mix buses. Of course, I have it on the hip hop setting, dialing back the high amount to about 41.5 with the dry wet around 63 makes it knock. On the final version of this, I have it going through ozone, but for the sake of these videos, I throw on an L2 just to keep the levels high. It helps with latency, especially when I have a keyboard in front of me and I'm kind of showing you what I sampled and how I chopped it. For this one, I didn't do that, but it still helps with when I'm just pressing stop and go. And that's going to do it for episode 4 of my beat breakdown series for the single Sewer Smoke, which dropped last Friday. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing, liking the video if it brought you some value. I have plenty more of these to come, and I'll also be doing tutorial videos on plugins, on DAWs, on specific techniques that I use in my mixing and in my production in the near future. Also check out my website, www.abtheaudicrat.com, and I'm also doing a monthly newsletter. If you're interested in hearing what I did the month before, stop by the website, bottom of the homepage, you can sign up. Thanks again, and let's end it with the full beat. Peace.